Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Getting Started with Heroku. My name is Sarah and I will be your moderator for today's event. Before we get started, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items. You have entered this webinar in listen-only mode. That simply means that you are muted so we don't pick up any noise from your end. We do welcome and encourage you to submit text questions via the questions pane in your GoToWebinar control panel. You can enter your questions at any time and we will save them for the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. If you have any technical issues, please type them into that same questions pane and I will respond to those ASAP. We are recording today's webinar, so you will receive a follow-up email that will include a link to the recording. By submitting your questions today, you agree to have them logged, read out loud, and be recorded. I would now like to introduce Michael Rockford, CEO and founder of RadialSpark. Welcome, Michael. You can take it away.
Thanks, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Rockford, and I am the founder of RadialSpark. Today, we're going to be going over what Heroku is, how does it relate to Salesforce, and we're going to build ourselves an app. So let's get started. So just a brief overview of what we'll be covering today. We're going to first start off with what is Heroku, and then we're going to transition into a use case that we had with a particular customer of ours. From there, we're going to move on to an application accelerator stack that we leverage for a lot of our application building, and it's completely open source, and be pretty cool for us to see that in action. And then finally, I'll be handing this off to Tom Wilkins, who is one of our senior technical leads here at RadialSpark, and he's going to build an app for you guys in under 30 minutes. So we'll move on from there. So first and foremost, what is Heroku? Heroku is a platform as a service, and what essentially that means is that it's an application that abstracts all of the complexities around infrastructure, IT infrastructure management. It was built by developers for developers. So really what that means is that developers, as you guys may or may not know, as many people are lazy and don't like doing things repeatedly or things that are boring for them. And so they built a system so that they didn't have to manage servers and orchestration and things like Kubernetes clusters, which I imagine you guys might not know much about, but the cool thing is you don't have to. It's easy to deploy, it's easy to develop on, it supports many of the modern languages available today, and so you're able to pick and choose the language that is most comfortable for your organization, or a language that is more apt for a particular use case like machine learning, AI, etc. And Heroku sits on top of Amazon's infrastructure as a service, so the resources are built to scale at an enterprise level. So what does this mean for you guys? This means that Heroku is a pay-for-what-you-use model. Much like a lot of infrastructure as a service and platform as a service companies out there, you're renting time on these servers that are being managed for you by Heroku. So it's not a per user per month cost or anything like that. It's you pay for what you use. They have two models. They have an enterprise agreement model and they have a credit card model, both of which can help you either get started quickly and so you could focus on building that app. It's quicker go-to-market. As you'll see today, we're going to be setting up an app for you in a little under 30 minutes, and that's not typically possible in a lot of other platforms that are out there because of all the other orchestration that you have to do. There's a reduced cost associated with that as well. You don't need to hire engineers to manage the infrastructure, to manage your servers. You need to just focus on your developers who are going to be building and innovating your application. And finally, it has an enterprise level integration with the world's leading CRM, Salesforce.com, which is a huge plus. So I'm going to dive right in here into a particular use case we had with a customer of ours. So this customer is called Six Pack Shortcuts. They're a high volume sales and digital marketing organization in the health and fitness vertical. we were brought on to do some Salesforce automation and a lightning conversion for their sales cloud and sales team. As well as we were brought on to implement a BI tool called Wave Analytics, or as you guys may or may know, is Analytics Cloud that's also offered by Salesforce. During this project and post the project deploy, we were able to immediately drive ROI with this customer and give this customer the visibility they needed into their sales organization data so they can make strategic changes that allowed them to net several $100,000 in additional revenue within a single month. This was a huge win for us, and they then were like, hey, can we look at some other parts of the organization, because we have this pain that we really don't know what's going on the marketing side. We can't see that data. I'd love to build Wave dashboards, be able to see what's going on over here. And their marketing data was scattered across several disparate systems, DigitalOcean, ServeNet, Rackspace. It was all over the place, and there was no central source of truth. On top of that, they had several, for a company that was very focused on sales and marketing, they had a very large IT department whose primary responsibility was moving data from A to B, getting it from these marketing systems and trying to import it into Salesforce to support their sales team. So how does Heroku play into this? Well, we found a point solution for both Marketing Cloud and Heroku to deprecate or sunset a lot of these old legacy systems. And what we did was we took their health and fitness portal that was built in PHP, and we were able to fairly readily transplant that over to Heroku, simplify it, because a lot of the back-end logic was just built to integrate within Salesforce, but we didn't need to do that anymore because we had Heroku Connect. So we were able to simplify the maintenance of the application, integrate it with their Salesforce system, and replace some of the other systems with Marketing Cloud. So now they had all of their data in one place. And with that, they now are able to achieve what the rest of the organization is now able to achieve what their sales side of the organization was with using these BI tools and big data and analytics, and really gave them those levers to make themselves successful. And that's one of the powers of Heroku, is that if your organization, like you guys have a bunch of PHP developers and you're comfortable with PHP, well, that's cool. We'll pick that up for where it is. We'll put it on, we'll put it on Heroku, and we'll give your executives great visibility into your data because it's all bolted together. And with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Mr. Tom Wilkins, our Senior Technical Lead here at RadialSpark, and he's going to go through our Plan App Accelerator and then build an app for you guys. So Tom, take it away.
Thanks, Mike. So one of the things that we like to do here at RadialSpark to expedite our development process is we tend to build out a lot of seeds or quick starts. And basically, they're small frameworks and projects that allow us to skip a lot of the DevOps and configuration to speed up our dev process to get results to clients more quickly. On top of those basic frameworks, we also put together somewhat more complex quick starts, which usually contain some sort of common functionality that we've seen in projects. And that's what we're going to use today. So the demo that we will be putting on today will be using a quick start called the Plan App Accelerator. And what this does is it integrates with Salesforce via Heroku Connect to pull in contacts and accounts from your org, and then it uses those contacts as a means of allowing authentication into an application so that you don't necessarily need to use users or implement a from scratch user authentication system and things like that. So without further ado, let's get started. So one thing before we get started is I have already created a Heroku and Salesforce account. If you guys want to do that, if you want to hack around with it, it's free, it's easy to do, it just takes a couple minutes. Links to those resources will be provided at the end of the presentation in the link slide. But let's jump into Heroku. So you create a Heroku account, you come in here, you're going to see this dashboard. It's going to basically be, the list of your apps, any orgs that you're a part of, things like that. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a new app here. So let's do that. Pretty straightforward. We'll just call this RS Plan Demo. Cool. Create app. And just like that, we have the framework for building an application on Heroku. Took 2 clicks. Incredibly easy. So you notice we come here, we see a dashboard with a bunch of different resources, a lot of different information on here. So you see overview gives you like an overview of what's going on with your app, such as add-ons, dynos, which you can kind of think of as computing resources at a high level. You have resources, which lets you go in, dive more deeply into those things. Deploy, metrics, settings, as another example. Come in here, you can see information about your application, where the server is located, what build packs you have, and maybe importantly, where that's actually hosted on Heroku, the URL, so you can access your application. So the first thing we need to do to get started with this demo is go to resources, and we need to add a couple add-ons. So for this, we're going to need 2 Postgres databases, and we're going to need the Heroku Connect add-on. So to do that, we can just type in post, didn't even get all the way through, it comes up, I click it. Going to select the free one because we like free. And just like that, we have a Postgres database configured to work with and provisioned in Heroku. Incredibly easy. The one labeled database will be the one that we're going to use for Heroku Connect, and then we're going to go ahead and add another one real quick. And this will be used for local data like user roles and things like that for the application. So let's provision another free one. And there we go. So Puce will be the one that we're using for local data. And just like the dashboard for the app, if you click into this guy, I'll go ahead and open it in a tab, you can dive in and you can see information about the data store, such as, you know, how many records it has, what's the data size, some administration stuff, and then what we'll be using later, things like credentials to access that database. So let's jump back over here and let's add Heroku Connect. And we'll provision that as free as well. And then we are going to click on this guy, and it's going to allow us to jump in and configure it. Here we go. All right, so let's set up a connection. We're going to select database, not Puce. Salesforce schema is fine. We'll leave that as the default. Go next. Wants me to actually click on it. There we go. We can leave these as defaults. We're working in a demo org, so these will work just fine. They'll send me out here to authenticate. Let me just select the right org here. There we go. Make sure we get the right password. Excellent, log in. And then usually it'll ask you, you know, just make sure to verify that you want to give the rights to Heroku Connect to access various things within your org. All right, so now we have an active connection between our Heroku application and our Salesforce org. We don't have anything happening yet, but the connection's done. We're good to go. So now what we need to do is we need to create mappings for contacts, and accounts. So let's go ahead and jump into that. We'll create the account first. So, and now going through this, you can see Salesforce database. So polling frequency, it'll pull the database. One thing that's nice about Heroku Connect and the streaming API from Salesforce in general now, it's a recent addition, is that there's some sort of you know, they keep data for 24 hours, I believe, so that since it is streaming, if you miss something, the data is not lost. There's some integrity there. It'll pull again at some point and get that data either pushed into Heroku or pulled from Heroku. We're going to listen for updates using the streaming API. This basically means that when you change something in your Salesforce org, it'll send a notification to Heroku Connect, which will pull that data and push it into Heroku. And then down here, write to Salesforce any updates to your database. This is basically so we can facilitate the two-way information sharing, right? So now we add something in Heroku, that'll get pushed up to Salesforce as well. We're just going to stick with most of the defaults here. I think we just need to add this guy, which is just an external ID that we use for this application. And that should be it. So we'll hit save. And you'll see it's automatically altering our Postgres database. It's syncing everything over, and now you can see that we have the account synced up. We have 12 rows in Salesforce. We have 12 rows in the database. Incredibly easy. So let's run through that one more time with contacts. So we can just come up here, search contact. There we go. And we'll just take some basic information here. We'll take email, first name, last name, phone, where you at, phone? Phone. We also use photo URL in this app, so we'll take that as well. We'll need to grab the PGID, and we'll also need to make sure that we grab this external ID relationship for the accounts that we already synced over. This will just say that, hey, you need to also sync over the Salesforce ID for those accounts. No big deal. So we hit yes, and then we hit save. And there we go. Now we have two tables in our database that syncs up with Heroku. We can do the two-way information sharing. So, I mean, the next step really is to get the app into Heroku so we can see what's going on. One nice thing about Heroku is that as part of their deployment process, they give you a Git repository which you can use for version control. As a development company, version control is crucial. They provide that out of the box. But what's also nice is that when you push to the master branch, it'll automatically deploy that application for you. So all you have to do is when you merge in a change into master, it gets pushed to Heroku, your app is now live, all those changes just added are live. There's nothing else you need to do. Incredibly easy. It's a little bit of almost continuous integration just right out of the box at your fingertips. So let's jump over to here. So this is the plan stack. This is what we're going to be pulling in. So let me just grab this real quick. And then we are going to jump into command line. So let me get into documents, make a Heroku demo directory. Ooh. And now the first thing that I need to do is, before we can actually bring in the quick start, we actually need to get a cloned version of the repository that's stored in Heroku. So one of the things that you can use to interact with Heroku is the Heroku CLI, which is a command line utility that you can use to do a lot of what you can already do in the point and click interface that you saw, but it also gives you a little bit more flexibility, and we'll chat about that a little bit more in a little bit. But let's go ahead and log in. Just enter in your credentials. Cool. And now we can see all of the apps that we currently have. So those are all the apps that I have on my Heroku account right now. The one that we're looking at is RS Plan Demo. So let's get that down into my local environment so we can start working with it. So at app RS Plan Demo. There we go. You appear to clone an empty repository. That makes sense. We haven't actually made an app yet. We haven't pushed that app up. So let's go ahead and change directory into the clone we just have. And now let's add the Plan App Accelerator. And that should already be pasted. There we go. And now we can pull that in. Cool. So now I'm going to switch over to my code editor real quick, and we're not going to dive into the code really. We just need to make a couple data source changes. So don't worry about that. This will be very high level. So let me go open folder, documents, Heroku. There we go. And I'll make this a little bit bigger so we can see what's going on. Actually, we'll move it over here. So let me go set up our data sources real quick. And let me go over here and look at those two databases that we were pointing at before and get the credentials so that we can actually hook into it. So this first one, the database, is our Heroku Connect database. So let's go view credentials, snag this URL right here. This is all the information we need to connect to the database. And we're just going to come over here and replace that. Cool. Do the same thing for the other database. Excellent. And that should be all we need to do to get our app up and running. So let me go ahead and do some little bit of basic Git stuff here. And we'll just say this is our initial commit. And let's push that up to Heroku master. We'll just go straight to master for this. So what you're going to see here is it going through the build process to push it up to Heroku and install all the dependencies. It's going to use a Webpack that Heroku provides to handle all this for you. You don't need to worry about this. All you need to do is know how to work with the Git repo. Everything else is handled for you. It's incredibly easy, incredibly efficient. There's a lot of things you can do with Heroku. While we're waiting, we'll go ahead and chat about the tools that they provide. You saw what we can do with the point and click interface, right? How easy it was to provision a database or Heroku Connect, or really any sort of abstract service that they provide. With just a couple button presses, you have something completely set up. With the Heroku CLI here, you can do a lot of that. So you can add in add-ons, you can allocate resources, you can do all that kind of stuff. But it also has a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more power because you can do things like integrate with your current existing dev tools or use other frameworks which leverage the Heroku CLI. You can also, obviously it's required to interact with the Git functionality within Heroku. But yeah, it's an incredibly powerful tool. It's incredibly flexible, and it's good stuff. So let's see, this guy's still installing. It should just be another minute or two. There we go. So now it's been deployed. We're just running through some of our basic build processes that are in the application. Build succeeded. Almost there. Sweet. Okay. So let's jump back into Postgres, or into Heroku, sorry, and then come over here. We see we have this open app, and this will open the app in the browser so you can see what's going on. So let's click that. And it'll take a second to load because it's still in the process of building and deploying here. So one way that Heroku saves on resources is that they, depending on what you pay for, they'll save their own resources by sometimes like putting servers or dynos to sleep, or they can have them active all the time. This is part of, it kind of goes into what Mike was talking about earlier with the pay for what you need. So sometimes, like if you see that initial slow, it's because this is the free version, and they're just like, hey, it's free, so we're gonna use as few resources as we can. So sometimes it'll put to sleep. So it just takes a second to refresh, not a big deal. But we are here. We're going to come in, log in with some default credentials, load it up, and here we go. So you can see, for those of you who are familiar with Salesforce orgs, all of these contacts here, a lot of them you'll see are defaults from Salesforce that you've seen. We've pulled them into Heroku, and we have them in a Heroku application that we can work with, we can use, we can consume. If we were in other applications, we could certainly push that back, and we'll see something like that in a second. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty nifty. It's pretty easy, and to set up that integration, I don't know what we're at yet, but it's taken hardly any time at all, really, to get that up and running. It's fantastic. It's super easy, super convenient. But one final thing that I think I want to show you as part of this demo is one of the tools that we use in our stack is a framework called Loopback. It is a framework, it's very opinionated, but luckily we agree with a lot of the opinions it has. And what it does is it provides a incredible set of tools which allow you to create REST APIs or do other server-related projects that you would need to do, server-side related projects. And it provides a lot of tools to automate a lot of that for you. So with just a few strokes of the keyboard on the command line, you can set up a data model which points to a database and automatically have a REST endpoint set up. And it also provides, out of the box, a REST API Explorer. So if we just navigate to this Explorer URL here, Here we go. You can see the endpoint. So in this thing, we have a contact and we have account model. We have end users that's used for authentication. But we open this up, you see all the standard REST functionality, get, put, post, all that stuff. And this was all provided out of the box. All we did was spend 30 seconds on the command line to create a data model, and it gave us all of this for free, both free in time, free in cost. Loopback is backed by IBM, so there is some strong forces out there backing it. It does have an open source version, which provides a huge amount of functionality for free. There is a paid for version that I think, yeah, covers some things, but for the most part, we've been incredibly happy with the open source version that we've been working with. And just to see if we can sort of test out here, let's try to put in a contact. And see it sync back into Salesforce. So like Mike was talking about with Heroku Connect, what's nice about it is you get this near real-time sync between the two things. So, and with the data redundancy, like you can feel pretty confident that within 10 minutes, if you put something into Heroku, it's going to be in Salesforce and vice versa. So we are going to see if we can get this guy in here. So we'll just enter in some JSON, REST API. And we come down here, and this means that it was successful for all intents and purposes. So let's jump back. So that was first last. Let's look at our contacts in our Salesforce org. And we'll just go look at all of them. Maybe. There we go. Let's see if we got that guy in here. Not seeing synced over yet, but I'm sure if we were to come back in probably 5 to 10 minutes, it would be there. Like we said, Heroku Connect is near real time, but it's about as real time as you can get. One thing that you can do is that if we come back over here and we go look at Heroku Connect, if we just want to see, let's see. We are going to pull manually, and we are going to try and just kind of force it. Now, this isn't standard. This isn't something that you need to do. It's just kind of for the purposes of this demo, we want to see stuff happen now. So we're going to get the pull. We're going to force the pull now. There we go. Okay, and it looks like it's still missing there. But like we said, this is the demo version. There is some latency with that. And if we come back and look at this in a few minutes, it would be there. It would be oversynced. So still, you can count on to be there. About 10 minutes. It's a safe time to, if you're looking for near real-time data in your use cases, we need information every 5, 10, 15 minutes. Heroku Connect can definitely do that for you. But that is basically it. We went through, we set up an application on Heroku Connect that was able to pull information from Salesforce. We can push data back into it, and it took no time at all to configure, set that up. Easy stuff. So I'm going to turn it now back over to Mike, who's going to provide us with a brief summary of what we talked about, and then we're going to open up for questions.
Thanks, Tom. I really appreciate you taking the time to walk us through that. It was a great demo, and I think it shows a lot of the power and how quickly and easy it is for a developer to leverage Heroku and get an app up and running. So what do we cover? We We covered Heroku. We covered some helpful tools that are all open source and available, and we'll provide links to those tools on the links page of where you can download these accelerators. And we configured and deployed an application that integrates with Salesforce in under 30 minutes. So after that, we'll go on to the questions part of the webinar. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you guys so much. I just want to open up the questions time now. If you guys have a question, please type it into the questions section of the GoToWebinar control panel. We did have a few questions come in during the presentation, so I'll start with those. The first question is there a reason you chose Node? Can you use other languages?
Yeah, you can definitely use any languages or most any language that you want, most technologies. The reason we chose Node was that we find that for a lot of the client business needs that we're looking to satisfy, it's event-driven architecture and just the way it handles general web processing is perfect for us. So we use Node quite a bit. We also use Java. We've done some Python work. You can use basically anything you want with Heroku. It can accommodate most any technology.
All right, thank you. And the next question is, what are the benefits of Heroku as opposed to other PaaS like AWS, Google App Engine, Azure, etc.?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So Heroku is actually hosted on Amazon AWS as an example, and it as you saw, it provides a lot of that abstraction and great user interface from both a command line side for developers and a declarative side from a point-and-click standpoint, so that you're able to quickly stand up apps faster than you would be able to do on AWS. If we were trying to do this on AWS, it would probably take us at minimum several hours to get up and running, if not a couple days, depending on your use case. So Heroku, it happens in minutes. Excuse me. Other differences between other platforms, there's some similarities, differences, but the real big thing is that Heroku, the two big things is that Heroku abstracts this level of effort, as you saw, in comparison to AWS. Azure and Google both kind of work the same way. You have to orchestrate your servers, build clusters, microservices architecture, Kubernetes, things like that. You really need to be able to have a firm understanding of how all that works. And you're focusing on that rather than on that infrastructure rather than your application. And the other big thing is that enterprise level integration with Salesforce.com. Heroku is the only one that has that. So if you want to bolt your apps into your CRM, that's the primary tool that you would do that for.
All right, thank you. Moving right along here, why choose Loopback over Express or similar frameworks?
So while I've used Express a lot in things that I've done, the thing that we like most about Loopback is it provides a lot of automation and tools to work with things like REST APIs and user roles and authentication. It provides functionality to kind of get up and running with that incredibly fast. And the time that we save from just using the tools that Loopback provides is a lot of time. That's a lot of time that we save our clients. That's money we save our clients. And so anytime we can sort of cut costs on their end to save them a little bit of money and still get something that's incredibly powerful, useful, and works incredibly well, we're going to do it. So that's why we chose Loopback in particular, because a lot of the tools and functionality it provides are fantastic.
All right, cool, thank you. We have another question here. Is the REST API that Loopback provides secure?
So out of the box, it's just a REST API, but Loopback provides all the functionality you need to secure it. So it has functionality for user roles and authentication, and you can set up access control rules very easily. It's all done in JSON, actually. So it's incredibly efficient, incredibly easy to work with. So yeah, with a little bit of extra work, not a lot. Once again, like we just sort of talked about, is one of the things that we like about it is it gives you all these tools and it makes them very easy to work with. So authentication is just another one of those tools so that we can secure our endpoints using whatever business rules we need to, whatever use cases or user access credentials or loop rules that we need to implement, we can do all of that incredibly easy using Loopback.
All right. Just want to give folks another minute here to answer or to enter their questions. If you guys have a question, go ahead and type it into the questions pane of your GoToWebinar control panel. And we have a few minutes here to keep answering questions. Oh, we just got one more here. What are the advantages of Heroku Connect versus REST integrations?
Yeah, so I'll take this one. So there are several advantages of Heroku Connect versus its traditional integrations. First and foremost, it's a declarative interface. As you saw as Tom was setting up the databases, it's all point and click. When he set up the integration, it automatically pulled over all the contacts, all the accounts, the fields, and you got to select, I want this field, that field, whatever, and really customize what your database is going to look like from a Heroku on the Postgres side. It was very easy and very quick. I think there was only one line of code or 2 lines of code to just set up the authentication between the app and the database, and we were up and running. So that's one of the big advantages of Heroku Connect. It's point and click, and it's also a polling and streaming connection. So it constantly listens and updates and whatnot. Now, the one thing that it won't do, as you guys saw, is that it's a quote-unquote near real-time connection. It is not a real-time connection. So versus REST integrations, REST API is for absolute needs to happen right now, transactional real-time integrations. And so that's one of the reasons, to tailor back to what Tom was talking about, why we chose Loopback, because it, out of the box, your app gets a full self-documenting REST API, so that if you have other apps in, like, say, Salesforce or in other ecosystems, you can easily integrate with your Heroku app, push data into it very quickly and very easily in that real-time fashion. And so Heroku is great, or Heroku Connect is great to sync over what I like to call slow data, things that are not, you don't need to rely on in a transactional sense, but you want to keep your app in sync with your CRM, for example, contacts. That's one of the key use cases, and you saw that whole list of contacts that was there. So there are definitely use cases for both. By no means does Heroku Connect replace traditional API integrations, but it gives you a very easy way to get a head start and integrate your data with your custom applications.
All right, thank you very much. Well, I think that is the last question here. So if you guys don't have anything else to share, we can go ahead and wrap this up. Any closing remarks?
I think that's it on our end. I really appreciate everyone who took the time to sit down with us today. I hope that you guys don't hesitate to reach out. If you guys have any questions, concerns about the demo, Tom will be available, and as will I, to go through any specifics. And if you guys are curious about our tool set, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you guys so much.
All right, thank you, Michael and Tom, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Be on the lookout for a follow-up email, which will include the recording of today's webinar. It'll have links for all the resources discussed today, and as a bonus, a copy of Michael's ebook. You're going to have to say this for me, HCAAS. All right, here we go, Heroku Consulting as a Service, the definitive guide to Heroku for your business. We will also include the schedule for the next 3 webinars in this series. The next webinar, the top 5 Heroku shortcuts, will be on July 7th, also a Friday, at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So please put that on your calendars now. We hope you can join us then. On behalf of RadialSpark, thank you so much for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day.